You're listening to Sports Radio Detroit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the second episode of the Final Track Review. I am, of course, your host, Chris Platte, and I'm very, very excited about this one today. This is, of course, brought to you by Sports Radio Detroit, so go make sure you check out all of the content that they do. I also have another NBA show on there, which is called the Platte NBA Minute. Just dropped episode 2 last week, about to drop episode 3 later on this week, so that'll be very, very exciting. Last week I talked to trade deadline, but that was before the trade deadline, and now that the trade deadline has passed, I'm going to be reflecting on that, plus some other latest things that have happened in the NBA. So look for that within the next couple days. But as for this one, let's get back to it. The Final Track Review, the second episode. I'm very excited to do this one. This is a review of G-Herbo's new album, Still Swervin. Now, to give you guys some background information on G-Herbo, he's a Chicago MC. Although he sounds different, he's got more of that street sound. He sounds a lot different than the artists that he came up with, Chance, Vic Mensa, Mick Jenkins, BJ the Chicago Kid. All these artists have their own kind of unique sound, Noname as well, but they all kind of bubbled together because they built off of each other. They collaborated with each other. They supported each other, and so that kind of helped G-Herbo, along with of course the music's got to be good or else he's not getting any support. So Herbo gained a lot of popularity through a string of critically acclaimed mixtapes before dropping his debut album Humble Beast in 2017, which I liked. In the album, with G-Herbo fans, it was an album that was a bit of a disappointment considering the hype and narrative that's placed around debut albums. I liked it. Some fans seemed lukewarm on it, and then the critics who were kind of new to G-Herbo didn't really like it. That was kind of the string of things. I'm someone who's not totally all the way in on G-Herbo. I don't know every song. I couldn't name you every song off of all his early mixtapes, but I do like what I hear from him these last couple years, and he's been someone that's been on my radar and stayed on my radar. And while I thought Humble Beast was pretty good, I loved Street. That was one of my favorite. That's easily my favorite G-Herbo record, and that was one of my favorite records of the whole entire year in 2017. I felt like there was moments that G-Herbo just didn't really reach or connect with me. Also, the song Everything with Lil Uzi was dope. I liked that one a lot. But yeah, so it had a couple cool records, but it wasn't really something. It wasn't one of those albums that people that you would return to and listen to the whole album. It was one of those albums where it was nice. It was cool. It had some records that you picked off there that you'd return to for a little bit. But it wasn't the classic album that. There was talk, between fans and the media hype and everything that G-Herbo's an artist that could potentially deliver a classic, just because he's very well accepted in hip hop and he is very talented. And it just didn't come together for me on that last project. And who knows if he's still capable of making a classic album? I'd like to think he is. But a lot of factors go into that. I talked about that actually on a podcast of my own, on the Strictly Hip Hop podcast, where I talked about, what kind of makes a classic album, how streaming has affected the classic album. That was a very fun discussion, so check that out if you're interested. But let's get back to G-Herbo. So after Humble Beast, he dropped this project called Swervin, which was a collaborative LP with Southside, and in this project, again, it was well received. It was a pretty nice solid record. It wasn't really on anybody's top 10s or top 20 lists at the end of the year, but it was a project that was cool, that lasted with a lot of people, and was a good album. And so now, less than a year later, once again, Southside and G-Herbo are back for their second collaborative LP titled Still Swervin. Obviously a play off of the last project that they did. So what I'm going to do for this one, for those of you that are new and didn't listen to my future album review, you can check that out. It's on Sports Radio Detroit's page. But if not, then here's the kind of the outline that I do. So I start with the intro track. I go through a couple of other tracks, and then I hop to the outro, because I believe in the importance of the intro and the outro tracks in terms of making a cohesive body of work. which is what an album is meant to be. Then I give my overall thoughts and a rating out of 10 and some of my favorite records. So without further ado, let's get into it and start with the intro track to this project, Still Swervin', which is titled Sacrifice. So G-Herbo starts off with some nice acapella bars talking about his sacrifice, really setting the tone for the track and the album. And then the beat comes in and G-Herbo goes off with the Migos triplet flow. And the thing I like about this is, despite the beat being pretty simple, like it's not a crazy beat, and it doesn't really change much. It just kind of goes back and forth between two tempos. But G-Herbo switches his flow many times, which keeps this track fresh, and it's a great start to the project. I really, really enjoy this one. It is, to give you a little sneak peek, it is one of my favorite records off of here, so check that one out. The next one I wanted to get to is Train to Kill. So this song is dope because G-Herbo, again, I talked about it with the Future project especially. I'm someone who, from a critical listener, or I don't know what you want to call me, a music critic, I guess, from my perspective, I like writing that can catch my ear with the melody or the flows or whatever, but also be able to have some substance with it. And G-Herbo did that on this track. You know, he has bars like my Glock's so tiny I call it Tip. Tip is one of my favorite rappers of all time. And also he has like this little Uzi impersonation going on with his cadence, which is like unique. I haven't really heard that. And Gunna once again kills the hook, making certainly the most commercially viable record on here. Gunna just delivers an absolutely show-stopping, ear-catching hook, just totally in Gunna's bag. I like how this is played very well. It wasn't just because Gunna's a popular artist now. With his breakout last year, he's become someone that everybody wants a hook from, and a lot of times those can feel reached or forced. But I like how with G-Herbo, especially G-Herbo's style, I like how he's able to kind of mesh with Gunna, because Gunna provides something that's totally different. He provides the auto tune and the melody that G-Herbo can't quite deliver, because he is a very monotone person, much like myself vocally. But G-Herbo is way more vocally diverse than me. I can assure you that. But yeah, G-Herbo is somebody who's, you kind of know what you're getting with him, and his singing is imperfect, which kind of makes it perfect, if that makes sense, because he is very monotone. He is very flat in a lot of his deliveries, and I mean those in a good way, because it places the emphasis on his words, on his bars, on his content, and that's what G-Herbo is known for. And so I like his collaboration with Gunna here. It just really switches it up, gives a project a different taste. And this is the fifth track of the project. So by then you're kind of ready for that switch. And again, it's easily the most commercially viable record on here. I don't know if any of these songs will reach the charts, but if there was one, if I had to pick one, Train to Kill is definitely that one. And it's a dope record. It's a really dope record. It's not just a commercially viable record that's just mainstream generic radio boring. It has some flavor to it, which I really enjoy. The second song, and this is another good song that I think is also commercially viable, is Never Scared. So the beat in this one is super simple but catchy. The hi-hats are something that, listen, if you listen to rap music, hi-hats are very prevalent in pretty much all of your favorite instrumentals, and pretty much all instrumentals in general, especially the trap sounding instrumentals. Hi-hats are pretty much a go-to necessity when it comes to making trap beats. But with this one, the hi-hats are kind of quieted down, they're toned down, they're kind of nicely sprinkled in, not too prominent, again, like a lot of the generic trap beats. So it kind of gives it a little bit more of a unique feel. I love the hook with Herbo and Juice WRLD. Their vocals surprisingly blend together well. Juice World is higher but laid back on this one. He's not at his totally like lucid dreams type where he's practically screaming into the mic or wasted. But he's kind of closer. He's kind of closer to wasted than he is lucid dreams when it comes to his vocal tone on here. G-Herbo's totally deep monotone again, flat vocals clash to make this like this really ear catching hook. It's something about that slow, deep, flat monotone hook that vocals that are like ear catching. Like, I mean, come on, like Nate Dogg on Shake That with Eminem. It's very deep, it's very flat, it's very straight to the point hook. But man, you can't tell me that that's not a catchy hook. Look that up if some of you youngins don't know what song that is. But that is Shake That with Eminem and Nate Dogg. That's a really dope song. But anyways. So that kind of thing is something that I enjoy, and G-Herbo delivers it very well. And G-Herbo, to me, this track shows that he could continue to be an artist that meshes well with the new sounds, like the Uzis, the Juice WRLDs, the Lil Yachty's, etc. I mean, he is he's really unique, because when you hear, if I were to play you, say the intro song to this, Sacrifice, you would not really see G-Herbo as being an artist that could blend well with artists like Juice WRLD, Yachty, Uzi, all of these new artists, even Gunna, who's also on this record, like I talked about. So these artists. G-Herbo has a different sound than them. Very more street, bar heavy, content focused, not really relying on melodies, more so on just his sheer flows and delivery. That makes him totally different from these artists, but yet he's still able to bring them to his world, and those artists fit well. And also, we've seen on records, like I said, like in Train to Kill, where he kind of jumps into their world and kind of does a little bit of a Lil Uzi impersonation with his cadence, and it works. And so it's just a testament to G-Herbo, because it's something that when I first heard him, I wouldn't expect him to be able to make great songs with those kinds of artists, because despite both artists being talented, sometimes you just can't make a song work because stylistically you're just too different, or you're too similar, whatever. But G-Herbo's an artist who definitely can collaborate with these young artists and make awesome records. And in fact, they're often some of my favorite G-Herbo records when he collaborates with these guys. All right, so let's jump to the outro track of this project, titled Wilt Chamberlain. Very, very interesting name. Catches my eye right away as an NBA guy. G-Herbo's on this, telling about his struggles growing up in Chicago, and then it kind of really just transitions to his struggles in the music industry, about earning $1 million by the age of 21, and how that's just a totally new world for him, yet also at the same time feeling like he deserves more. And what really makes the pain come through in this track is not only is G-Herbo's voice, it has a level of pain to it that you'll know when you listen to it, but also the female vocals screaming in the background really kind of emphasize the pain, and fit very well with the vibe and the feeling of this outro. But I like how he ends it. G-Herbo ends it feeling semi-positive, and feeling like, he's blessed that he's in the state that he's in, that things could have been a lot worse. So despite the pain, the trials, the tribulations, this is like an overcoming song rather than just a painful song and a sad song. And I like this record, but like the Future album, I actually had this problem too, in sort of a reverse order. I feel like the following track on this project, on G-Herbo's project, Hood Cycle, is technically considered a bonus track, but I feel like that could have been actually a better closing track. The instrumental just brings out more emotion to me than the Wilt Chamberlain instrumental does. Even though both are very good tracks. And with the Future album, if you remember, if you listen to the review, the second to last song that he had, and I'm blanking on the title right now, but that to me felt like a better closer than the actual outro did. And to me, it's very, very important. And I've said this on the Future podcast. I've said this on my own hip hop podcast. I've said this pretty much everywhere because it is really a golden rule with me. Intros and outros have to be important to me. They are some of the most important tracks. They are the two most important tracks to me on the record of every album, because you have to, when you're creating a body of work, you have to start strong and finish strong. And so it hurts when Future didn't really finish strong on his last album. And this one was kind of different with G-Herbo. It felt like he finished strong twice, which was kind of a weird and unique feeling because both kind of had the outro vibes to them, but one was better. And I don't know if he just couldn't decide which one he liked or if he felt like both of them fit in sequencing. I really feel like when it comes to the outro of a project, I really don't feel like you need two songs that are sequenced together, because Wilt Chamberlain and Hood Cycle, like sequence wise they fit, sonic wise they fit together, especially because their content is sort of similar. But with me, I feel like with outros, and I might be a little bit picky here, I don't think you need to do two outros. I feel like they kind of begin to take away from each other, because it's almost like you're competing with the same content. And so I don't know if G-Herbo just couldn't decide, or if he disagrees and he feels like Wilt Chamberlain isn't necessarily or that Hood Cycle isn't necessarily a outro track. It's a bonus track. But either way, I like both tracks. I'm not mad that I got both tracks. Just in the sequencing of the album and in the overall listening and replay of the entire album, I just feel like they kind of take away from each other. But overall, I'm feeling a 6.5 out of 10. I like this project. G-Herbo came more versatile on this project. He had multiple flows and styles on tracks like Sacrifice, Up It, Train to Kill. All of these have different styles and flows and cadences, and it's fresh, because I feel like a lot of times, while there's a couple good records I like on Humble Beast's debut album, I just felt like with that he didn't really step too much outside of his comfort zone, and if he did, he didn't do it often enough. Where this one, I feel like even though he seems and feels comfortable in all of his songs, which is a testament to his growth, I felt like he did enough versatility to it to like really entertain me the entire listen through. And with 14 tracks, 44 minutes, it's not a tough listen at all. There's not really any songs on there that I would consider bad. There's some that, you know, are just kind of filler to me. There's a couple, but for the most part, there's not a bad record on here. And you know, I'm just really impressed with G-Herbo, man, because he continues to be an artist that meshes well with the new artists. And I feel like with this project, his production was more complimentary than his debut album, Street. And I know I keep comparing it to that when I should be comparing it to the last project, Swervin. But I feel like Swervin and Still Swervin are in the same vein, and they're different from his debut album. So I feel like there's a lot of people that listened to G-Herbo when his debut album came out and just kind of didn't really connect with it, so they kind of just left him by the side. And his release definitely could have went under the radar last year, and that's no disrespect to him. That's just a testament to how much strong music was coming out last year and how much there was. Even if he came out on any week, there was some rap album that was released every week that it felt like somebody had to talk about. So pretty much no matter when you dropped in 2018, you were competing with somebody, which was something that was very interesting. So G-Herbo, you know, that kind of fell under the radar, but that's why I compare it to his last project, or his second to last project, which is the Humble Beast album. But overall, man, I really like this project. I'm definitely going to continue to listen to G-Herbo when he drops. I don't know if while the growth is there and I like the trajectory he's on, I don't know if he's growing fast enough for my liking, and I don't know if he's living up to the potential that I thought he had at the very beginning. But I think he's certainly nonetheless a great artist that you can listen to, and you could definitely have songs that you rock with off of him. Like I would be shocked if anyone listening to this podcast decided to listen through the entire album and didn't like one record on here. I think there's something for everyone. G-Herbo's a really talented artist, but we're in an era in hip hop where there's just so many talented artists that there's just a lot of competition. Like I talked about in 2018, there's just so much competition, and so he can be one of those artists that's a personal favorite, but he can kind of to a lot of people he can kind of fall by the wayside, and that's no detriment or disrespect to his talent. It's just more so the competitive nature that hip hop is in and the climate that hip hop is in right now. But yeah, I like G-Herbo. I'm looking forward to his next project. I'll continue to see if he grows. He has grown. I can't acknowledge that he has grown every project, and I think that he's an artist that is finding his way. And who knows, that I believe he's only 23 years old at this point. He might be 24, 25, but he's still a young artist, and he's still got plenty of time to grow. And one thing we've saw between Jay-Z and Pusha T, that in hip hop, it's not basketball, it's not football. You have you have all the time in the world to deliver a good album, and so your prime could be in your 40s or your 20s or your 50s or your 60s. It doesn't matter. Art is art. So when you're creatively at your peak, that's when your prime is. So anyways, I will wrap this up by saying thank you everyone who listened to this podcast. Please, if you like the content that you heard, or if you have suggestions on what I should review next week, because I'm always open to reviewing what the fans want me to review, what the listeners want me to review. So hit me up on Twitter or Instagram. Those are my two most active platforms, and my Twitter handles or my social media handle is the same for both of them, and that's at Real Chris Platte, ChrisPlatte. Of course, real before that. So follow me there. Let me know what you think of this G-Herbo album, what you think of the future album, what album you would like to hear from next, what would you like me to review. And I've even, I've thought about this, and I'm even open to kind of jumping back to the past and reviewing past projects if that's what the listeners want. So please let me know. Anything is on the table. I'm happy to hear suggestions. But until the next episode, thank you everyone, and take care.
This has been an SRD production.
Hi, this is Jason Pinkett from Pucking Around and Spinning the Wheels on Sports Radio Detroit. Check us out every Sunday over on the SRD Hockey feed on Spotify, TuneIn Radio, Podbean, iTunes, and Stitcher. That's SRD Hockey in your search bar. New episodes every week.